My name's Sarah Weller. I'm London Managing Director here at Mubaloo. Mubaloo is a mobile application developer and mobile strategy consultant. So we've been around for over 6 years now, working with different clients on their mobile strategies, so what they should be looking at, what they should be thinking about when it comes to mobile technologies, and then building specific applications to suit the requirements, whatever they might be. The contextual awareness of mobility is huge right now. Everyone's talking about personalisation, contextual awareness, things like location-based technologies, micro-location-based technologies, customer segmentation, really going into the detail. All these things have been talked about. You know, this is not new. They've been talked about for quite a long time, but people are starting to really get to grips with them now, which is really exciting to see. So having specific messages being sent to you based on knowing more about you, knowing that I am Sarah Weller, I'm not just a female that happens to fall into the bracket of 20 to 35. That change that we're seeing in delivery of marketing and delivering of content is really exciting from a customer perspective. Other trends, we're seeing a lot happen in the enterprise space, and actually some of the most exciting uses of mobile technology at the moment, I would personally say, are in the enterprise. So looking at how mobile technologies can improve speed of response, how they can help with health and safety, how they can help with engineers in the middle of a field, how they can use drones. There's so much happening in the enterprise space as well as the consumer space, which sounds like it's very different, and actually, you know, it's different from a process perspective, because you're thinking about how can you help people with the jobs that they're trying to do, how can you make their jobs better. But actually we're all just consumers at the end of the day with mobile devices, and so looking at everything from a user-centric perspective is happening across both areas, which is amazing. It was a couple of years ago, the enterprise space was, you know, people were used to, well, we're going to build an app and they'll have to use it. It doesn't happen. If it's not user-centric in design, if it doesn't do what a user finds useful and is simple, and people just will not adopt it. So that whole way of thinking about the strategy and then actually delivering those applications with the users in mind, prototyping, proof of concepts, is huge and really exciting. Some of the other trends that we're seeing are around how many things are now becoming connected as well. So one of the really interesting areas is around looking at omnichannel experiences and how you deliver an omnichannel experience to a customer as well as an employee, and how those two things come together. So one of the really exciting things is, even when we're looking at applications for customers, so in financial services, for example, customers are going to be looking at data in front of them through their mobile device, building it with them in mind. But actually, it's important that the people in the call centre can see the same information and more detail than that the customers can have. So previously we went through a time of, well, let's build the applications for the customers, but also how do we have that change management from an enterprise perspective, and how can we give those customers that best experience possible through the use of mobile? The APIs are there, it's about how you display that data, and that's something that a lot of people are starting to really think about, which is amazing. In terms of some of the challenges, I would say one of the first challenges that we come across is around APIs and integration. So it's quite easy to sit here and talk about, well, we're going to build applications and integrate with the various systems that are required, but actually in reality, that's quite often the biggest stumbling block that we come across. So you might have a fantastic idea for something that will change something from a front-end perspective, change a customer experience, change something for employees and make them more efficient. But actually, until you're able to access that data and feed the data back into whatever system or systems you need to, you can't do it. So in terms of delays, there's a lot of companies right now focusing on their back-end infrastructures and spending months and months and years working on that to make their organisations in a position where they can be API first. So people talk quite a lot about API first. They have done for about 12, 14 months. Some companies have gone with an API first for a while now, companies like Coca-Cola, where they have gone straight in with, right, let's get all our APIs in place, whether it's for consumers or for enterprise, and then building applications on the front end is going to be much simpler. But Coca-Cola is one of very few who have taken that approach. So still, when you're uncovering new ideas, there's still quite a lot of work that needs to be done on that side of things. I'd say one of the other challenges is knowing where to start. So we work with quite a lot of companies on who can see so much potential, and they're big companies. They might have 50,000, 100,000 employees, and they've got hundreds of ideas for apps coming in every day. And they're just like, well, how do you filter through? How do you know where the best return on investment is going to be? How do we know that building this application over here is going to be better than building it over here? And we don't have the resource to build all of these at the same time, and we wouldn't do that anyway. So having to have a strategy, which is a fluid and constantly changing strategy, because technology changes all the time, is quite new to a lot of these companies, because they've been able to have strategies around IT in the past, which have been over quite long time periods, much longer than they are today. So having to work in a more agile way, keep things changing, building MVPs, it's a whole learning process that's going on for an awful lot of clients that we're working with at the moment to enable them to start working on these. And that's only when they've decided where they should start and prioritise what's going to be the best return on investment for what they have at the moment. So that's quite a big challenge that a lot of companies are facing right now. I'd say transport is an area where it's so much clearer, the user benefit. There's still a lot of trials to be done in retail. Transport is much more obvious. If I walk into a station and I get the same train every single day, I want to know what platform I should go to. Tell me, notify me, tell my watch, because that's obvious. That's a really obvious benefit to a user. Same with if you're changing the platform, same with if you're changing the train time, same with if you're changing my bus timetable or knowing my route from this platform to this platform. So transport is very, very, in my mind, much clearer in terms of how it can benefit the users, how connected mobile experiences using different technologies, the benefit is very, very clear. And I think quite a few of the travel companies in the UK have really cottoned on to that, and they're doing some fantastic work. I was on a panel with National Express talking about the work that they're doing around timetables and information to passengers as well as drivers. Lots of different companies in that sector really starting to understand the benefits that can be had. The challenge with that is who owns the space sometimes, especially when it comes to rail, because you've got some of the so many different companies involved in running trains, so many. So who is responsible for the applications that the customers use? My train is South West Rail that I get every single day. I'm not going to download an application for South West Rail. I think they're called Southern Rail, something like that. See, I don't even know. I've had the same train for 2.5 years. I don't even know what it's called. I'm not going to download their app. National Express, I download their app. Am I going to download an app from Network Rail? Am I going to download an app from other people working on the sites, even though they have access to lots of information? That's the space that I think work needs to be done. And one of the challenges is how these companies come together and share information for the benefit of the customer, and if that is even possible. But I think that's a really interesting space. So one tip, one idea for myself, which I've talked about quite a lot already, but I think is the most important thing, is before making decisions about where to focus, what the potential return on investments might be, what technology to use, so think about the user. If the strategy is a user-centric strategy, you won't go far wrong. Don't invest in technology for technology's sake. I hate it when companies come to us and say, we want to do a beacons project. What do you mean you want to do a beacons project? Or I want to do an augmented reality project. What on earth are you talking about? If you have a problem you're trying to solve or a customer experience you're trying to improve, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what you're trying to achieve. If it happens to be that augmented reality helps improve that, fine, we can use it. If it happens to be that micro-location helps what you're trying to achieve for your users, fine, use it, perfect, because the technology is there. Technology is not the problem right now. We have so much technology, so much capabilities. It's quite frankly unbelievable and incredible at the same time. The most important thing for people to be thinking about is our users, and using the users throughout the entire process, through prototyping, through proof of concepts, constant feedback, making sure that the products that are being built are focused on the users and their needs and making their lives simple. You can't go wrong.